Hey everyone, we continue our series with sitting down with the Democrats running for the U.S. Senate against John Cornyn. Today we are joined by City Council Member Amanda Edwards.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in. Let's just start off with a big picture sort of message of your campaign that I think you launched 2 weeks ago?
Yes, 2 weeks ago as of yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
David and Goliath, you said that's sort of how this looks. Explain that.
Yeah, so of course many of us know the story of David and Goliath in the biblical sense, but there was an interesting book written by Malcolm Gladwell and talked about that paradigm, and basically with the premise of what things may appear to be on surface aren't always how they are when you peel past or peel back some of the facts. And so in the context of David and Goliath, went on to talk about David's past experience as a sharpshooter type and, real great aim, and the fact that he was very skilled, even though small, skilled. Meanwhile, Goliath, having, been a giant, he talked about the conditions that likely led to him having that grand size, also probably led to him having things like visual impairment and challenges to mobility, things like that nature. And so when you start to look at it after knowing more facts, then of course you say, David seems like he has more of an advantage here, and that Goliath seems to be just kind of a giant target instead. And so I think sometimes we have, especially in how fast-paced our society is right now, we have a strong inclination to make snap judgments based on appearance rather than peeling the facts back and realizing what's really at issue.
So in the metaphor, who's who?
Of course, I'm David. I'm David, of course, being someone who is a local elected official, who is also an African-American female, and also young, if you will. I'm a millennial. People might on its face, because that's not the traditional road traveled for a position like this, say, oh, she's going to be in over her head. And I think what truthfully that provides me is a lot more ability to connect, because I'm on the ground each and every single day. I'm meeting with civic clubs on a daily basis mostly. I get a chance to really have my finger on the pulse of what's really impacting people, what they're really concerned about, as opposed to what the media says that they're concerned about. I'm talking to them. We are partnering in problem solving in local ways. And so when I say that, I mean I'm equipping them with information that they need, but then I'm asking them to join with me so we can have solutions we work on together. And so that's a means of empowerment. I'm also able to connect some of the issues that we'll be talking about on the campaign trail are issues that impact folks that are in the millennial generation. For example, we'll be talking about student debt. Those are meaningful ways to connect people to the campaign and what you're going to do so that they can see that there will be a difference in their lives if you are in fact elected. Women and minority business owners, I deal with that on a very regular basis with a task force that I run. They have a lack of access for business owners to gain capital in traditional ways, so working on those types of issues. So again, the things that I've been working on and doing on the ground are exactly the things that they want to see across the board in a broader spectrum. So they happen to be strengths of mine.
Well, and I want to drill down a little bit into this. You said transformational change.
That's
that
right.
You want to bring that to Texas.
That's right.
Explain that a little bit more.
So there are two prongs that I want to accomplish with this mission. I like to call it a mission. Yes, it is a campaign, but I think it's much broader and bolder than just a campaign to get me elected. It's a movement to empower people. And when I say empower them, they have to understand that the power really rests in their hands. And that what I mean by that is, if we have a functional government, one in which the elected officials are accountable, provide deliverables, the changes we like to talk about on a campaign trail, someone needs to be holding them accountable to make sure that this is more than just a political speech or rhetoric. And so empowering them with that motivation to say, if you don't deliver, you shouldn't be occupying that seat. And that's the standard by which we should be having conversations, not just in terms of once they're elected, but on the campaign trail, setting a new paradigm of expectations. So that's the first piece. The second is, it does you no good. I could be as nice as I could be as charming as possible. but what difference does it make in your life if I haven't delivered for you? That is the question that we should be asking all candidates, not just me, asking all the candidates in order to earn that vote. Your vote should be a indicator of what change should be brought about with the person that you're voting for. And if that person's not the conduit through which change flows, that's not the person for the job. I always say to people, don't ask me just what I care about. Don't ask me just about what my values are. Those are important, but what is most important and what is essential, what we have to get right, is asking the person, what have they done to make your life different? And really evaluating that component. There are a lot of people in this world with great intentions, but you have to be able to deliver and execute on those intentions. That's going to make the difference in people's lives.
You mentioned our political leaders being held accountable and delivering.
That's right.
I would argue John Cornyn, who has been a sleepy senator, has not delivered for the state of Texas.
That's right.
No matter what party you're in.
That's right.
He's sort of been coasting. And so as a result of that, and some other things, the sort of the national climate, the Trump stuff, Cornyn is vulnerable in the state of Texas.
Very vulnerable.
How do you see how he's been as an elected official?
I see that in that seat, we have not utilized that seat for people. That seat has not been utilized to deliver results that people are counting on yesterday. So things like healthcare, for example. Just to give you a little bit of background on my story, my dad had cancer when I was growing up. He was diagnosed when I was about the age of 10, I would say. But in that process, as I was a young person learning about his treatment and what was going to happen next, my parents were very open about what was going on. I'd ask a lot of questions, and I'd say, well, who's paying for this treatment? What's happening here? Well, what if they say no? Because I was learning, I didn't really understand as a child or a young teen insurance. I thought it was such a perplexing system, and so I asked a lot of questions and realized that in those decisions, when you're dealing with coverage and access to life or death life-saving mechanisms, you're not asking about the size of government or which party is in power. You're asking about prolonging the life of your loved one. And I had that experience very early on. Many people will have this experience over time. And so my point is we should be expanding access to families in terms of access to health care. And that's a decision that shouldn't be political or be a political chip in a game. This is really something that impacts us in a very visceral way, and we must be responsive to that. Unfortunately, we've allowed, or John Cornyn has allowed, politics to get in the way of expanding that access. In fact, he's voted against the Affordable Care Act, voted to overturn it at least a half a dozen times. And that, to me, speaks volumes to who and where the focus has gone. And the focus has gone to the politics of the day rather than the people of Texas. And we've got to make sure that those Texans, they are secure, not only just in terms of healthcare access, but also secure in terms of economic opportunity. And those are the things that when you're at home and you're talking to your family, you're looking at your family's budget, you are dealing with the issue, you're in the hospital, these are the things that you expect your leadership to be thinking about, and not just who's playing what game in which political party. And that's where, unfortunately, I believe he's lost sight of people, and of course is not delivering what Texans deserve to have.
And you're big on protecting pre-existing medical conditions like cancer and asthma and any other litany of other things.
Yes, right.
Right.
Absolutely. I don't know many Americans who don't want to have that protection and have pre-existing. I mean, think about all of the atrocities that have taken place over time. I could give you numerous anecdotes of people who have had challenges because of the pre-existing conditions, and that was one of the places and spaces in the Affordable Care Act where I thought there was the most agreement about making sure we preserve that. And so to try to cut against that, I think is untenable, and I think is completely counter to what Texans want and deserve.
You launched just 2 weeks ago,
yes.
as we said.
It feels like 2 months ago.
I know. Time has gone by very quickly. We've asked others who've come in here who are running for this seat how much money they've raised.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're doing quite well. We are past the $250,000 mark right now. We're past the $250,000 mark, and we're making strides to go further and getting on that phone and making calls. And so it's been really positive response, I will say, in that people have been excited about my message, the focus on people, the focus on deliverables, holding our government accountable for the things that we say we're going to do. People are excited about that, but more importantly, I think people understand the gravity of this election cycle. This election has the propensity and ability to change the paradigm structure, the power of paradigm in our country. That's a really, really powerful vote and a powerful effort in terms of if we could get Texas to flip with this election cycle, what that will mean for us from a policy standpoint and a deliverable standpoint for people. And I think this is an incredible opportunity. I would not be out here if I didn't, in terms of what it means for people and their lives. And so people are buying into that, the critical nature of this, and they appreciate me as a candidate. I'm a straight shooter. That's all I can be. And if we can deliver on something, I'll be honest about that. If we can't, I'll be honest about that. I don't believe in making promises that I can't keep. But I do believe that people deserve more than what they've been given. And so we will push to make sure that we expand access for healthcare and that Texans have economic opportunity and more.
Well, and on economic opportunity.
Yeah.
You've talked a lot about transformational change generally.
Yes.
But I think that there is a big a concern in Texas, but also across the country, about just an economic anxiety that seems to be growing.
Yes.
Right. Talk a little bit about how you would increase opportunity economically.
Absolutely. Across America, there have been concerns about the future of work in our economy and the future of our economy. It's rapidly changing with the onset of automation and things it's evolving. And so a number of people have anxieties of what that means for them today, as well as what that means for them tomorrow. And instead of us glossing over those communities, let's say, and this is across the spectrum, it's urban, it's suburban, and rural, but I'll use a rural example. But instead of glossing over those communities and saying, oh, well, you are in an economy of the past, or instead of using a scapegoat and saying a wall is going to bring your job back, when in fact maybe automation is the reason your job has gone away, we actually start talking to people across the state of Texas about scalable solutions. I happen to lead a group with the New Deal leaders of state and local officials across the United States that focuses on the future of work. Why not come up with a package of scalable solutions that could provide people with sustainable wage-paying jobs that can support their families and can be scaled to small communities across the state. And actually be scaled across the country, but across the state of Texas. And I'll give you one small example. We look at and we see oftentimes businesses putting some of their customer service enterprises or some of their back office operations overseas and in different locations. Why not encourage, by incentivizing these businesses, to put those operations right here in their backyards, but more so in small rural communities that may have had jobs go away or a factory close, or those kinds of devastating impacts on their economy locally. Why not put those types of jobs that we do? If you look at how we treat the medical profession, the medical profession incentivizes physicians to move to places where there's sparsely populated areas with low to little at provision of medical services. We could be doing that with jobs. We could be incentivizing the movement of jobs to be in places like telemarketing jobs, for example. But these are just small examples, but things that we can be thinking out of the box differently about how we approach making job opportunities accessible to people. Where there's internet and broadband deserts, which is a very prevalent situation still to this day in 2019. That's a gateway for people to gain access to job opportunities. People work from home, they do that kind of, but you can't do that you don't have internet, and you have to have the infrastructure for it. So there are a variety of things that we could be putting into place that show that we are putting a very serious priority on making sure that everybody is a part of tomorrow's economy. We could be providing access to job training credits and just a variety of things that can equip people with the tools that they need to be a part and be included in tomorrow's economy. And that's what we have to emphasize.
So this election is in November of 2020.
Yes, right around the corner.
Yeah, it's as if it's around the corner the way it's being discussed, which is great.